The evolution of our business model from just Leonetti to these other things happened somewhat organically. We had grown Leonetti to become 100% estate grown, and that was super gratifying. So in some ways I was always adding on to the business, but just within Leonetti of adding these estate sites, we'd acquired land, planted these vineyards, developed them, completely transitioned us away from purchased fruit to estate grown. And that was very satisfying. We finished the winery in about 2000, our new production facility, and between my parents and I, we both kind of decided, okay, we've got this thing where we want it production-wise, we're fully estate grown, we're even selling a little extra fruit. But here I am in my 30s, and I just couldn't kind of imagine that being it. There was something more, and that something more kind of reached out and grabbed me when I found what would become the Figgins estate site. And I found this piece of property came available from a family that was, the dad had died, and they were divesting themselves of a few pieces of smaller farm ground, and there was a 55-acre parcel that was perfect. 1,500 to 1,750 feet, south-southwest slopes, deep wall-to-wall silt loams, rolling terrain. It just had everything I looked for. I talked with my parents about it, and they were, okay, we're done. No more vineyard sites. We've got what we need for Leonetti, and we did. So with a kind of a slow tug of war, it's like, well, what if I do this? And they're like, on your own, yes, So I felt strongly enough about the site that I felt it warranted being a single vineyard project. And it definitely would have made more sense from a business perspective, short term, to bring it into Leonetti, have it be a Leonetti single vineyard, the Figgins Vineyard. The name of it, incidentally, is honoring the other side of my family. My grandma Leonetti married my grandpa Figgins. It's a Leonetti-Figgins connection. I love that old world model where the vineyard, the winery, the wine is one thing, it's a continuum, and it's about the place. And the varietal makeup is a point of interest, but it's not critical to the wine. It's about the place and tasting the wine, tasting the place in the glass, and just seeing vintage variation rather than so focused on the varietal makeup. It was much more of a horizontal move. It was a sister winery to Leonetti. I very much wanted to avoid the second label curse. I knew it had to have its own facility. Also have an assistant winemaker there to me. So the winemaker at both, but have separate assistant winemakers. That said, we taste together, we collaborate, and trying to understand what we're doing at each property. But it definitely was a horizontal move, and priced it as such because I felt that the vineyard justified it, and it does. And it's been an amazing addition to Leonetti to have this wine that's terroir on a very small micro level, one vineyard, whereas Leonetti is terroir on a meso level, across the Walla Walla Valley, blended from 5 vineyards.
Chris has been here 20 plus years, I believe. Even in grade school and junior high, we'd have little walks around the property and just talked about it. And I always thought, I'm not going to push this kid because he's the heir apparent as far as the winemaker goes. I'm just going to make little subtle suggestions. Some of this could be yours, and if you ever have the inclination to do it. And didn't have too many conversations along those lines, just a few things. We just let him have his way. But here's a job, come home from college, you work in the cellar and help with the crush and all that. And then he was significantly involved in designing and building the new winery. It's just kind of a natural fit. Amy was a little tougher nut to crack. She kind of went into corporate America for a time and became a cost analysis engineer. Of course, she had the whole business marketing experience at Washington State University. Big deal. I always talked to her. I said, come in, your brother's in. It might be pretty good,
I wasn't hired as the winemaker, I didn't fill out a job interview, obviously. It was a process. So my dad, he's kind of a natural teacher, natural instructor, and there was never a day along that line where all of a sudden I was the head winemaker. It was a slow tug of war, if you will, for me wanting more and more responsibility, more and more of decision-making and control-making ability. And I think about 2001 is when I was finally given the title of winemaker. That was, I think, definitely a big deal for me in terms of building confidence, at that point in my career. Working with my parents has changed so much over time. So early on, it was very difficult to separate personal from professional. The lines were completely muddled. You never had a family get together for Christmas, Thanksgiving, a Sunday dinner that didn't also talk about business, talk about the wine business, and always all consuming wine. 10 to 12 years ago, we got some professional help, and I think that was absolutely critical to our success in establishing boundaries of personal life and professional life, boundaries of knowing, okay, now's the end of talking wine. Let's actually be a family so you can enjoy each other as a family and not just be always focused on the business. Because the nature of the wine business is all-consuming, especially if you're going to be successful at it. You're not thinking about it Monday through Friday. You're thinking about it all the time. You're discussing things all the time. Your arguments or disagreements end up being discussed over Sunday dinner instead of talking about the kids or fishing or the weather or whatever. Dad's got his nose in the blends, still, but it's interesting, when you're in your 20s, you're constantly pushing Dad, trying to establish your territory, pushing Dad out. In my 30s, we started, establish some sort of equilibrium, and now that I'm in my 40s, it's like, Dad, come taste. Hey, we're blending this afternoon. Come, trying to pull him back in from fishing or cabin or whatever he's doing to get him back involved and his nose in a glass with me, because obviously I still value his palate, his perspective on the style of our wines over time, so I love having him involved when possible. And I think that from a business perspective is what I'm most proud of. And also what we have as a family, any wealth that we have as a family is 100% because of wine. We didn't sell a tech company and then buy ourselves a legacy or buy ourselves a winery. We did it from the ground up, and a lot of hard work and a lot of bootstrapping. That's what I'm most proud of.
There's lots of opportunities here in the Valley or elsewhere in the state. They're going to take that education and everything they've learned from here, and they're going to make it big.